I'm Donna Blanchard, and this is a ThinkTech commentary. I'd like to talk about nuclear energy. Whether we're talking about military or civilian use of nuclear energy to produce electricity or mass destruction, it is intrinsically the same thing. And what we've learned from Fukushima is that even when the intended use is electricity production, the threat of mass destruction exists. E equals mc squared, period. It seems a little ironic or darkly romantic that after the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan embraced nuclear energy and built more nuclear power plants than just about any other country except perhaps France. They invested heavily in this resource because it seemed the smartest way to go at the time. Despite what we were led to believe in the 70s, nuclear energy is expensive, non-renewable, not clean, and catastrophically dangerous. Yet we're so hungry for electricity that we continue to utilize it. Unlike many other fossil fuels, nuclear power plants do not emit carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, or nitrogen oxide as part of the power generation process. However, fossil fuel emissions are associated with uranium mining. In New Mexico and Wyoming, our primary resources for uranium, indigenous tribes have long ago documented health risks associated with airborne emissions from uranium mining. In fact, the Navajo Nation enacted a ban on any type of uranium mining and processing on Navajo territory until past harms have been remediated. Fossil fuel emissions are also associated with the uranium enrichment process, as well as the transport of uranium fuel to and from nuclear power plants. Water is used in mass quantities, filled with heavy metals and salts that cannot be completely removed, treated to some extent, then dumped back into our lakes, rivers, and oceans. That water is also warmer than it was when it came out. That causes aquatic disruption along with chemical pollution. Think about that in areas where we're already talking about overfishing. And nuclear power plants produce radioactive waste. Yet we've continued to think of nuclear energy as bad in weapon form and good when you can use it to charge your cell phone. What to do with all that radioactive waste? Well, you can reprocess it. Once you've successfully made plutonium by burning your uranium in a nuclear reactor, you can separate this out and use it to make mixed oxide fuel, MOX, or nuclear weapons. Those of us who use nuclear energy have a ton of that stuff. This, of course, is where we get into the question of how much enrichment is a good thing. 3 to 5% for power, 20% for medical isotopes, and 85 to 90% for weapons. This is why there's been such deep discussion on plutonium-enriching centrifuges in the Iran nuclear agreement. Look, dark romanticism aside, Japan thoughtfully debated the use of nuclear energy after the meltdowns in Fukushima. That energy has been essential to the Japanese economy, and they have already spent billions to make it possible. 4 years after the tsunami, on August 11, 2015, Japan ended a de facto freeze on the use of atomic power and restarted one of dozens of nuclear reactors. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe supports restarting idled reactors that meet enhanced safety standards, arguing that Japan's economy depends on the low-cost power they provide. Now, it's considered low cost now because they have already spent money to build those plants. They are already there, waiting to produce electricity the economy requires to grow. Remember when Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev talked about nuclear fusion? That's different from the fission we've been discussing. It's cleaner, and in theory, can create unlimited power without any carbon emissions and very little radioactive waste. And it's actually happening in France right now. It's called the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Google France and cold fusion and you'll find it. The US, Russia, most of Europe, Japan, China, India, and South Korea, a total of 35 countries are involved in the experiment. My point is, we're not done discovering solutions yet. We have to keep looking, and I'm sorry, but along with reducing, reusing, and recycling more than we ever thought possible before, we have to keep spending imagination, time, and money on really good ideas. It isn't enough to say we're going to use nuclear reactors because they're already there. Don't stop there. I'm Donna Blanchard, and this has been a ThinkTech commentary. Okay. Okay?